In this video today, guys, we're going to be diving into the Harmony protocol and specifically talking about the price action of the one coin. We have seen quite a turbulent week and lots of pullbacks actually occur here for this project. This is really unfortunate timing as the week prior we actually closed in a very critical area. And it was Bitcoin that actually pulled us down a little bit lower. And I'm going to dive into what is going on here and what we've seen so far this week and whether or not this bleeding is going to stop. As we get into this video, if you do find it useful and informative, hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be staying up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with all that out of the way, let's dive into what is going on with Harmony on this weekly chart to start. Obviously, we started everything back in March of 2020. This is pretty much the beginning of the bull run. This is where we started to see the first of 5 waves. Okay, this actually peaked up at around August time before we went into the second wave correction. This was actually quite a slow correction that we actually saw going sideways for quite some time. This actually kind of bottomed out around December, late December of 2020 before we started to see a good surge to the upside with the Harmony One protocol. Here we can see that we peaked up here in March of 2020, a total of 385 days from beginning of wave 1 and the peak of wave 3. That has seen 18,905% in gains. To put that into perspective, guys, we can jump over to Bitcoin here, and for the same time period, we can see it's 1,600%. So we know that ultimately this actual move for Harmony One was very significant, and if you were invested in Harmony instead of Bitcoin during this time frame, you would have seen significantly more profits driven. Now, obviously, after these third wave has pushed to the upside, we actually going into the fourth wave correction. This took a lot of people by surprise, specifically if they were investing at the top of wave 3. And again, we came down to the bottom here. Now, this low area of wave 4 was very, very sharply achieved because wave 2 was flat. So when we talk about these 5 impulse waves to the upside, there's certain rules. The second wave here being flat meant that the fourth wave was going to be sharp. If the second wave was sharp, wave 4 would have been flat. Okay, they're always the opposite of each other. Okay, so now we know that those two are in line with the theory of Elliott waves. And then obviously the other rule that we have to be mindful of is that wave 4 should never cross wave 1. Okay, and in the case of Harmony here, that is all okay. So then after this low was achieved with wave 4, we started to see a bit of a recovery to the upside. This basically meaning that we've gone into the 5th wave. However, on this progress to the upside, last week we got a critical close above the 786 on the Fibonacci retracement area. Now from here we actually start to see a bit of a pullback, and that was courtesy of Bitcoin. Basically, we closed really strongly for Harmony One on the Sunday evening, only to see Monday actually get the reversal because Bitcoin decided to pull back significantly, bringing the entire market down with it. In the case of Harmony, it hasn't been able to recover so far. We can see that from the current position that we're on through to where we expect Harmony to go in this 5th wave is 420% in gains. The key here, guys, is to be patient because we are going to go after that, get those gains at the top there. 420% is likely, in my opinion, if not slightly higher than that. Overall, the structure of the 5th wave here is very much intact with everything else, and although this is very frustrating, it is not unusual. We can see over here during this third wave to the upside, we did indeed have a significant pullback in the middle. Okay, so although it can be very frustrating to see this close in a very critical area, it isn't unusual to see this actually last for a couple of weeks before we start that big surge to the upside like we saw previously. Overall, this is frustrating, but it isn't unusual and something that I think is still intact for our 5th wave to the upside. So overall, we haven't invalidated anything. The pattern still stands and we are still in a very strong position. Obviously, we have our upward trend, right? This is a trend line that has been started from February of 2020, tested in August of 2020, broken through in 2021 around February time, back tested on several occasions. This upward trend is still intact as well, and is something that we'll probably end up touching on in the near future during a bear market. So overall, I'm not concerned with anything on the weekly chart. We're nicely overbought here, and again, this is an area that we can be overbought for such a long time that being just up here now isn't even a problem either. So when we actually jump down into our daily, we get a little bit more of the clarity of what is going on most recently, right? And we can see that we had a good surge to the upside. And basically all of these big red movements here on this chart are all courtesy of Bitcoin, unfortunately. The natural kind of corrections that you see here, and here. This is actually pretty normal for Harmony, and again, these are coming in at technical areas. And then we are starting to see a good push up to the 618 and Bitcoin pulling us down. We then surged right up above the 786, getting the close in the right position that we needed, and then obviously pulling back down because of Bitcoin pushing back up. Again, just reaching the previous high area here. In fact, we actually just set a new all-time high a few days ago, right? So we actually went up a little bit higher than our previous wave 3 high, and then Bitcoin decided to pull us down on that motion. We were actually tracking really nicely, and then obviously the rest of the story, as you kind of can tell, is pretty much a downhill from here. Now obviously we are oversold on the stochastic RSI, and we have got huge potential to push this right back up to the upside. We can take a look at some of these other previous areas that we were oversold on, which was all the way down here, and then we were surging all the way back up to this area during that motion. So ultimately we can be oversold and actually track into this overbought area nicely if we get that momentum behind us and that right sentiment. Overall, this daily chart is very frustrating to look at, these kind of movements that Bitcoin is causing in the altcoin market. But overall, I do think long term I am very, very confident that we are going to be recovering and we are going to be pushing up to the upside soon. Overall though, if we can just get back inside our yellow box area above the 618 and turn the 618 into a support line, that would be a bit of a win for today. So although we can wick lower than the 618, I really want to see that close candle above the 618. It's basically anything above 15.6 would be really good for Harmony right now. Okay, so obviously the daily chart is interesting. We had good push to the upside and these very frustrating kind of corrections that we can see in the space. Okay. Today's video has been sponsored by Cheeky Crypto, and specifically the Harmony One staking pool. If you are looking to support the channel and do not know how, the best way you can go about doing this is actually to go ahead and delegate your One holdings into the Cheeky One staking pool. By doing so, not only are you supporting the channel, but you're also providing yourself with a nice passive income on your crypto holdings. You'll get some very juicy returns hovering around the 10% APY, and this is a fantastic way to make your crypto work hard for you the way that you worked hard for your crypto. Guys, if you are looking to support the channel, why not delegate today to the Cheeky One staking pool with the Harmony One protocol? So at this point, I am going to talk about what's going on with the underlying data. For this, we are going to jump over to the advice.io dashboard, where they use artificial intelligence and machine learning to help us understand the underlying value of a cryptocurrency. This completely removes the human bias and allows the AI and machine learning to use their algorithms to determine what's important, what is not important from the underlying data, and then assign a grade to that or a rating to it. In the case of Harmony One here, we have an A3 cryptocurrency rating overall, which again is very good. It's definitely in the top 3, so it goes basically A1, A2, A3, so it's the top third best kind of rating that this platform can give. But there are some problems that we need to talk about. One, obviously we can take a look at the AMI-HAD ratio, so liquidity is not a problem, it's an A2 rating, so we know that liquidity is not a problem for Harmony like it has been in the past. We can take a look at Harmony One's Fear and Greed Index. This is where things get a little bit interesting, and we can see it's a B1 rating. So it's not greedy, but it's also not fearful. It's actually quite neutral at this point. So again, not helping its overall rating, but definitely not helping the sentiment. No one really knows which direction they should be going in. Are they going to short? Are they going to go long? Are they going to buy more on the dip? Or are they going to sell and actually try to buy back cheaper? Right? The market's quite indecisive at this moment. It's not greedy, as in everyone's FOMOing in and pushing the price up. But also it's not fearful, where everyone is so scared they just want to drop their Harmony bags instantaneously and sell as quickly as they can. We are somewhere in the middle, right? Pretty neutral, and you're starting to see that reflected in the charts. We go down a little bit lower. We look at the Sharpe ratio, A2 rating, so the second best rating that you can get from the advice.io here. For the Sharpe ratio is your risk-reward ratio, and so therefore this is indicating that actually it's pretty good investment to be investing in Harmony. The risk doesn't really outweigh the reward, and the rewards are actually pretty good in balance to the risks. So overall, that's actually looking pretty good and pretty attractive proposition. We take a look at the profitability, the ROI, and that's up at an A1 rating, the best it can be. So those two things coupled together with liquidity and everything else that we see in here, actually it comes across pretty nice. choice, and it looks like a pretty good investment and a pretty good decision. We take a look at Harmony One's moving averages. Again, they're A2, nothing wrong with those. Peak end value demand is a B2, so it could be better, but we're seeing worse as well. Overall, there's not really anything wrong with the underlying data. So when we take a look at the charts and we see it in a bit of a free fall, it's obviously quite confusing to us, and it is pretty much just courtesy of Bitcoin, and I think a few frustrated people in the space with Harmony not moving quite how they would expect it to. That being said, though, and as I highlighted at the beginning of the video, Harmony has made more profits than that of Bitcoin, and that's a pretty significant thing that we have to consider. If it's all about the actual making the margin and the profit from your investment, Harmony One would do you a hell of a lot better, if during that first initial stage of the bull run than something like Bitcoin. Admittedly, it's not an attractive dollar value per coin, that many people talk about, but bang for your buck, you're going to get a fantastic deal this way. The same thing could be said for a few other altcoins that we are invested in on the channel. Take a look at Anchor, that's over 32,000% in gains in the same period that Bitcoin got 1,600. We also have VeChain, another 18,000. Matic, Polygon's network, did 42,000. So, there are projects that perform incredibly well, but obviously they're not very attractive from a dollar perspective, as in it's less than $1. It doesn't sound great when, you take Bitcoin from 20K to 65K. Sounds great, but when you take VeChain at 0.5 cent up to like 20 cent, those are very significant gains, right? And in the case of Harmony here, we've had a very similar move. We take it from 0.5 cent all the way up to 22.4. So that's where you see these huge potential pushes on your portfolio where you see significant gains. You don't tend to find that with those higher cap coins like Ethereum and of course Bitcoin. So overall, Harmony One has performed incredibly well. I don't think anyone can really say it hasn't. With that being said, though, if you were buying at the top of wave 3, then unfortunately you've had to endure quite a lot of pain first. But with that being said, my expectations are that we are going to ride this thing all the way up to 79 cent and maybe even push for that theoretical dollar barrier at the very top. So 420% from the current position is still a very significant return on investment, and I do think this is something that I think a lot of people will eventually see if they're patient enough with Harmony. So let's actually jump down into the hourly. This is where we start to see that free fall in action, and whether or not we are going to start to see an end to this endless bleeding that we are seeing here. Ultimately, we've seen for quite some days now a bit of a free fall in the Harmony price. We were unable to keep the 786. We actually were unable to keep the 702. And right now we've lost the 618. These are three very key areas on the Harmony chart. And we really want to see a closed candle up here above the 618 today. With this being said, with only a few hours left before we close today's candle, we can see that we are overbought on our stochastic. So we need to first of all drop down lower before we can even push or think about pushing right back up into the overbought area. So right now we do need to kind of see the next few candles come in, and then we want to see if we can push up before we can close tonight's candle, our daily candle, and ideally we need to get it above that 618. If we do not get it above the 618, then I do expect us to fall right the way back down towards our lower area here of the 50% retracement zone. This would be a very unfortunate thing for Harmony, but I'm hoping that that would be the last barrier to actually kind of come down to, find solid support, and then work our way back up and back through the battle that we had previously over here at the 618, the 702, and of course that 786. Unfortunately, guys, this is not the best of news that I want to be reporting on, but it is something that I think is important that we also acknowledge and prepare ourselves mentally, and get our emotions in check. If we do start to see a pullback of significance on Harmony, this is an opportunity to potentially dollar cost average a better position. Other than that, it's about hodling and securing our investment for what is to come in the very near future, which will be a push up towards new all-time highs as we again head towards that 79 cent area. Guys, I'm going to leave this video there. If you have found it useful and informative, hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. If you are new, do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.